I've got Jake Gorsica with me again. He's our resident coin collector, and he already shared with us a little bit about coin collecting. Also, in the process, he's run across how to collect some other ancient artifacts that come up along the way as well. So, Jake, it's good to have you here. Talk to me about not just collecting the coins, but other artifacts too. Tell me about what their value is.
Well, these objects are also witnesses to history, just like the coins are. They're not as direct of witnesses, that is to say, even the archaeologists are sometimes baffled when they dig up an artifact. Take this cavalry pendant right here. We know this was a pendant. We know it rode on the front of a horse, but the time period's a little sketchy. Some would say, oh, it's from around 100 AD. Others would say maybe 100 years after that, rather. Some would say it might be Celtic, but if it is Celtic, what time period? It's difficult to say. Someone with more knowledge than myself might be able to pinpoint it a little more directly, but I personally can't. And there are plenty of artifacts out there that archaeologists can't pinpoint either. Now, when you're collecting artifacts like these, one thing to watch out for is fake artifacts. That's always the case when you collect any kind of antique. There are always people out there who are willing to fake them to try to make some money. Coins are a little harder because they followed some really strict specifications. We know things like die axis and weight and material composition and the like. Artifacts don't really have that.
All right, so in our slides for today, we've got some different artifacts that Jake has collected along the way, and they include some arrowheads, some hairpins, some fibula, and a signet ring. So let's talk about each of those in turn, and you'll get the chance to see his collection. So here are the arrowheads.
Yes, I bought a series of arrowheads at one time. They had them for a really nice price, but it was a bulk lot, so I didn't know what I was going to get. I was hoping for a lot of nice Roman arrowheads. I did get one. There's one up in the top corner, top right corner, the smallest one in the picture. That one, the design is really similar to those used during the days of the Roman Republic. You don't see a lot of those because the Romans relied more on hand-to-hand fighting than they did archers. This one dates to about 100 BC, and it may have even been the type that Pompey may have used when he invaded Jerusalem, or that his troops may have used. Now, if you look down in the lower left corner, you'll see a very long three-bladed arrowhead with a spur on the end. As near as I can tell, that one's Macedonian. It predates Alexander the Great by a good 300 years, putting it at around 600 BC. The other three are most likely Scythian. Now, the problem with arrowheads is the designs were really common. Every culture kind of copied the other. They'd see a good design and then they'd think, well, I should use that. So in reality, all of these arrowheads might be Scythian. All of them might be Greek. They could all possibly be Roman. It's difficult to tell.
All right, thanks. So we have different kinds of artifacts. We've got arrowheads, and then we have hairpins, a completely different use. But tell us about some of the hairpins that you found.
Well, these were necessary for a lot of ancient hairstyles. A lot involved putting on hair pieces, which you would need the pins to hold in place. Every time I read in the book of Timothy, Paul talks about, your beauty should come not from braided hair, but from, inner qualities, that sort of thing. I always think of these. The problem with hairpins is a pin is a pin. It's difficult to say what time period it's from. I have seen examples that look exactly like this, ranging from anywhere between 2000 BC and 1600 AD, a few centuries after the flood to the colonial era. I'm guessing that these ones are from a range of around 100 BC to 100 AD, judging by the other artifacts I found them with, making them either Roman or Celtic.
All right, thanks. So sometimes they don't tell you, so the artifacts don't tell you so much about the political intrigue of the day, but you can get a sense of what daily life was like in some of these ancient worlds. So we've looked at arrowheads, and we've looked at hairpins. Tell me about fibula.
Yeah, these were the equivalent of safety pins in the ancient times. They were used to fasten cloaks a lot of the time, or togas. They're famously known as toga pins. If you go to buy any, that's probably what they'll be sold as, is a toga pin. But they were more often used to fasten cloaks. Cloaks were articles of clothing that everyone wore, not just the aristocracy. Now, the style of the fibula changed over time, and different cultures had little different concepts here and there. The Greek fibulae were a little bit different than the Celtic, which were a little bit different than the Roman, and so on and so forth. I've got three of my favorite examples: a boat fibula, an Aucissa Fibula, and one known as the Hinged Dolphin.
All right, thanks. Here's the boat fibula.
Yeah. This is a Celtic. It's actually from a type of artwork known as the Latine style, which was spread across Celtic Europe in roughly 400 to 100 BC. This one was uncovered in Hungary, near Lake Balaton. Probably the Cotini were the tribe who made it. This one's damaged. It should have a little bit more right on the front, where there would be a pin coming out that would then hinge to the back. Of course, this one's not intact. If it were, it would have been worth a lot more than what I paid for it. Now, the way these were made, they were cast as one solid piece, and then they would hammer them out into this boat-like shape that gave them their name. This example is an Aucissa Fibula. This one originally would have been arced, would have made a nice, clean arc, and would have a pin running from the front to the back to hold the cloak or the toga. This dates from around the time of Christ. They were manufactured in northern Italy around 50 BC to 50 AD. So this one very well could have come from Christ's time. It was unearthed in Britain, so most likely it came to the island after 43 AD. That was the year of the invasion. I have this little story in my head that it may have been part of the original invasion. One of the original legionnaires may have had it, but no one can say. What we do know is that this specific style was popular with the legionary at the time. So when Christ was crucified, the soldiers who crucified him very well may have been wearing fibulae like this.
That's cool. I love the color that you can get from looking at some of these ancient artifacts. All right, tell us about the Hinged Dolphin.
This was a bit smaller fibula. This one's almost completely intact. It would have had a little bit of a tail right at the back end where it curves. The reason they call these dolphin is because when you look at them from the side, it kind of looks like what a dolphin looks like when it's jumping. This is also British, probably 50 AD to 100 AD, something like that. The reason I've included it here is because that was near the end of Paul's ministry that these were in vogue. Mainly in Britain, but they may have seen a little bit of light on the continent.
All right, so we've seen hairpins and arrowheads. This one's really interesting to me because I think this can have a lot of historical value depending on which signet ring you buy.
This one was found in Hungary, where a lot of the other artifacts were from. I bought one hoard and had to clean it off and figure out what the artifacts were. And I was practically gobsmacked when I saw this one. I realized it was a signet ring from the 1st century, around the beginning 1 AD all the way up to 100 AD, something like that. The back is missing. It was broken in half. I can't really tell what the design is. I think it might be a dove, but I really can't tell. It's been corroded too much. These could have been used to seal documents or the like. But what's really interesting about this one is when Christ was crucified, after his body was buried, Scripture tells us that the Roman guards sealed the tomb with his seal. Most likely it was a ring like this that did the job. Perhaps it was even this one.
All right, thanks. So artifacts can really help us to understand some of the gravity and reality of these ancient worlds. So Jake, thanks for bringing your collection of artifacts for our discussion, and we look forward to watching the coins from the different periods and seeing what we can learn. Appreciate you being a part.
Well, thank you.